Hi everyone, Jerry Detweiler here from NAV, and it's January 20th, 2021. We have new information from the SBA about the EIDL grants. That's been a really popular topic on our blog, so I want to bring you up to speed with the latest information. Unfortunately, I think some of you are going to be pretty disappointed, some of you are going to be frustrated, but at least we have some answers. So hopefully you'll find that helpful as we go through this presentation. So let's just go over what we're going to cover. We're just going to talk about what the grants are, who might be eligible, what about taxes, how do you apply, and what other help might your business be eligible for. I do want to emphasize that just like the last round of the CARES Act, EIDL and PPP, things change. They've changed based on the guidance that we got today from the SBA. They will change again. So please make sure that you use the resources at the end of this presentation to stay up to date on the latest details so that you can be informed on what the SBA is saying at this moment in time. Also, of course, I don't offer you financial or legal advice. Please check with your advisors for your specific situation. So remember what EIDL, well, let's talk about what EIDL grants are in case you're not quite familiar with them. They were created originally back in March 27th of 2020 in the CARES Act. So that was that original legislation that created the PPP program and the EIDL grants. And they were a grant that in the legislation was written as $10,000, up to $10,000. And then the SBA decided to administer them at $1,000 per employee. So some of you may have gotten $1,000. Some of you, if you had multiple employees, may have gotten anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 in those grants. And some of you didn't get any because before the end of the year, the program ran out of money, and some people got an offer for a loan. They did not get a grant. So in the original application, you filled out the application for the economic injury disaster loan, and then you checked a box at the end to be considered for the grant. The loan is a loan at 3.75% for 30 years. The grant is separate. The grant is money that does not have to be repaid. So now the grant portion ran out of money and the loan was scheduled to expire at the end of 2020. So we have the stimulus bill that the president signed on December 27th of 2020. And that legislation offered some additional funding for these programs. It extended the loan to the end of 2021 and provided more funding for the loans. And then it also created these new targeted EIDL grants. And that's what we're going to talk about mainly in this presentation. And again, this is based on information we just received from the SBA about this program. So who is eligible for these EIDL grants? Well, in the original legislation, to qualify, you had to be a small business, generally 500 or fewer employees. And then you could apply if you were a sole proprietor, self-employed individual, independent contractor, etc. And your business must have been a business by January 31st, 2020, impacted by COVID-19. That has not changed. To my knowledge, those qualifications are still in place for the EIDL loan if you're going to apply. However, for these new targeted EIDL grants, they added some additional qualifications. And the new additional qualifications are that your business has to have fewer than 300 employees, be located in a low-income community, and have suffered an economic loss greater than 30%. Now, here's what's key, and here's what I'm still grappling with because it's not my reading of the legislation. I'm not an attorney, but I've spent a lot of time in both the CARES Act and the new legislation. It's not my understanding, but this is what the SBA is saying at this moment, is that in order to qualify, you must have applied previously for an EIDL Advance or grant. You can use that word pretty much interchangeably. The language in the legislation said advance, it's a grant, it's the same thing. And you didn't you didn't get the full $10,000. So maybe you got $1,000, but not $10,000. Or you didn't get any advance because the money had expired or had been exhausted by the time they processed your application. So these are the two groups that the SBA is saying may qualify for these targeted EIDL grants of the full $10,000. But you also have to meet these other qualifications. So if you applied in, say, September and there was no grant money, but your business is not located in a low-income community, at least what the SBA seems to be saying right now is that you would not be eligible for these targeted EIDL grants, that you have to be in that group of businesses that applied and who meet these new qualifications. What does a low-income community mean? I won't read this all to you. There's a definition in the legislation that's on this slide. This is also in our article about the EIDL grants. You can see it there. We provide a link to a census tool that may help you, but the SBA has said today, we're going to tell you whether you qualify based on a low-income community, and they said they'll provide more information. So I wouldn't rely on this entirely. Like I wouldn't spend too much time like trying to figure out whether you were in that low-income community right now, because the SBA is going to come out with additional information, hopefully a simplified tool, but then they will tell you applied before, right? So they have your address for your business, and maybe for some of you, that's your home address as well. And then they're going to reach out to you and say, hey, you are located within a low-income community. You may be eligible for this full grant. So then the second criteria that this is where you're going to have to come in and provide some information, presumably, is that you've suffered the 30% economic loss. So you're going to look at gross receipts for your business between an 8-week period between March 2nd, 2020 and December 17th, 2021. I'm not sure about the 2021. I guess that's going to extend, meaning they're going to still be processing. I'm just not clear about that, but that's basically saying the end of this year, relative to a comparable period before. This is confusing. SBA is going to come up with a formula for seasonal businesses. They're going to give us more information on this. So I wouldn't get too hung up on it yet, because there's not much you can do until they reach out to you and say you may qualify. But except watch the guidance, watch the articles as we update them. But they have said that they will require the business who may be eligible to provide gross monthly revenue to demonstrate that 30% reduction. So here's what's key here for you. Here's what you do have some control over right now. And that is that you want to get your bookkeeping up to date. We're barely into 2021. Some of you maybe don't do your own bookkeeping, you outsource it. If you do, maybe you haven't caught up. This is absolutely 100% key for you to make sure that you get your bookkeeping up to date as fast as possible, because that is going to help determine this 30% economic loss. So how much can you get? So you may get up to the full $10,000 grant minus the grant you got before. So if you got $1,000, you may be eligible for another $9,000. And this is not based on the number of employees. Not based on the number of employees. It is based on you meeting those new criteria, the economic loss and location in a low income area. New, you must have previously applied. So from what I read from the SBA's instruction, which is now on the SBA website, you have to have previously applied for this in order to be considered. Now, there is some good news. This came in the stimulus legislation. So I've mentioned this before. EIDL grants are not taxable, and you can use it for expenses that if they're otherwise tax deductible, you can still deduct those expenses on your tax returns. It will not be subtracted from PPP for forgiveness purposes. If you already got a PPP loan and got it forgiven and they minused out your grant, the SBA is going to come up with procedures to make you whole on that so that it's not a loan anymore. So you don't have to pay back that as a PPP loan. That's retroactive. So that's good news. Any of you who are also applying for a second draw PPP loan, they did clarify in other guidance that the EIDL Advance will not count in your gross receipts. You have to, for the second PPP loan, you have to show a gross revenue reduction of 25% for a quarter. And until we got the guidance that came out yesterday, they didn't mention the EIDL Advance, but they're saying, hey, a forgiven PPP loan and an EIDL Advance or grant is not counted in that revenue. And of course, a loan is a loan. That's not revenues, gross receipts for your business. All right, so how do you apply? This is the question I've tried to answer a million times on the blog, and I just have not had a good answer. And now we have the answer. The SBA says do not apply. The SBA will contact you. So they're going to go through the applications that they already received and identify those who may be eligible and reach out to them by email. Their first priority are those who got some money but didn't get the full $10,000. And then the second priority is those who applied, but there was no money available because funding was exhausted. There is a limited amount of funding for this, so it's possible they could run out of money before everybody who fits into these two buckets gets it, but hopefully not. And we do have a new administration that may act to change that or make it different. So I wouldn't get too worried about that, but I don't have a timeline for you. The way I read the legislation, they have 21 days. So once they reach out to you and you say, yes, I want to be considered for this full $10,000 grant, the way I read the legislation is 21 days for them to make a determination. So I don't expect this money to happen overnight. Unfortunately, I know many of you are struggling and you do need money quickly. I'm just going to hedge that with, that's my understanding. I don't work at the SBA, so I don't have insights, but that's the way I read it. All right, so what do you need to do? If you think you may fall into this category, you watch your email. The SBA will reach out to you. Check your spam folder. In the last round, we saw a lot of people who did not see the email from the SBA because it went into their spam folder. So check it. But I also want you to be ultra cautious here. This is a ripe opportunity for scammers. So you must make sure that that email comes from sba.gov and look at that email address. Don't let it say sba.gov@gmail or, sba.gov plus something. It needs to come from @sba.gov. I have no doubt that there will be scammers trying to spoof the SBA to steal information, to try to get people to pay something. Who knows what the scams are going to be. Please be extra careful, but do keep an eye out for an email from the SBA and check your spam folder as well. Now, some of you are going to be frustrated by what I just told you, and I don't blame you one bit. The other option you may want to consider is applying for a PPP loan if you missed out the first time, or if you didn't get a second PPP loan or haven't applied yet. It can work like a grant because it can be 100% forgiven if you spend it properly in the right time period. So a PPP loan may be an alternative if you discover that this grant is not a possibility for you. And we've already been helping small business owners at NAV get matched to lending partners. They've got applications in that are in the queue to be processed through the SBA. So get your application in if you think a PPP loan is right for you. And if you just go to the NAV homepage, nav.com, you will see right there the link to apply for PPP. The only other national alternative that I can suggest to you is pandemic unemployment. So if you potentially are eligible, that has been extended through the middle of March of 2021. And there's talk in the new administration of additional funding and extending that further. So that would be the other alternative if neither EIDL or PPP is an option. I should add too that some states are still making grants, and I've seen sort of a new wave of grants for small businesses in very local areas. So a great way for you to find out about those is to connect with your local SBA resource partner. That would be your Small Business Development Center or SCORE. And you can go to sba.gov. So sba.gov is where you apply for EIDL. If you go to sba.gov/tools, you will be able to put in your locator and find your local SBA resource partner there. Get on their mailing list because there might be a local grant or program or low interest rate loan program that might be helpful to your business. So what can you do right now? Get a NAV account, sign up. We will update you as we learn new information. Join our Facebook group if you are on Facebook because their business owners are talking about their experience with these programs. I'm updating these articles as soon as I get new information from the SBA. In fact, that EIDL article that's on the NAV blog right now has been updated already today. and we'll do our best to try to, update that and answer questions as we can. All right, so let me see what questions we've gotten here, and let me see what we can do. Oh, by the way, the SBA says do not apply. So they said do not apply for an EIDL if you already did. It will just create a duplicate application. So hi there, it's good to see you again, Matt. Dawn, you started your business March 5th, 2020. Am I eligible? That's a great question. You have to have been in business. As far as I know, it has not changed from the CARES Act requirements, which was January 30th or 31st. It was the end of January 2020. I don't see anything that has indicated that has changed. So that's my understanding. But you can apply for the EIDL loan. Again, it's a low interest rate loan at the SBA website right now. That portal is open. So you just go to sba.gov. Right at the top, you're going to see a link for coronavirus resources, and you'll see a link on that page to apply for the EIDL. It's a little bit of a weird application because you don't say how much money you need. You just put in the information about your business, and then they calculate the loan amount based on economic injury. They have an internal formula that they use. It's a little bit weird, but definitely go ahead and try to apply. All right. And Joseph, you asked, I got another loan. Can I get another loan? So you should not apply for a second EIDL loan. If you need more money, what you should do is you should apply for reconsideration. And that is in my EIDL article on the NAV blog. There's an address for reconsideration. Now, last time in the last round, the SBA capped it out at $150,000. I don't know if they're going to increase that cap. They have not mentioned that. So if you capped out at $150,000, I don't know if additional funds will be available, but you do have the right to request additional funds through the reconsideration process. So I would go ahead and do that and see whether you can get additional funds. There is more money in this program for the loans. What about the SVO grant? That's the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant for things like theaters, concert venues, etc. I have not seen an update that that's open. That is also going to be a grant that you apply for at the SBA website. And my one caution there is if you get the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, you are not eligible for a PPP, a second PPP loan at the time. Doyle, you asked, I received an EIDL loan, but I didn't get the grant. So you said they will call. They will not call, they will email. And they will, my understanding based on the guidance that they publish, and it's right on the SBA website, and it's in my article as well, is that they will email those who are in a low-income community. So they're presumably going to use your zip code for your business that you've used when you applied for EIDL. I'm guessing this, but it makes logical sense. They're going to use that and reach out to those who are in a zip code that qualifies as low income, and then they'll ask you to provide that additional information to show the 30% economic impact. And so, Calvin, yes, you are waiting for an email, and I wish I had a time frame for you. I don't, unfortunately, but I hope they'll start doing that soon. Now, tip, any of you who are in your Facebook group, I can tell you that other Facebook group members are going to tell you when they get that email. So you will get a hint that at least it's opened up. There's a lot of applicants who are probably going to get notified. So I can't tell you how quickly it'll happen, but that's a great place for you to be notified. Alfred, you said you were denied the first round. Can you apply again? This is a really, really good question. Again, the way I read the legislation, personally, not as an attorney, but as someone who's studied this stuff, I read it that there should be money available for those who didn't get a grant the first time. Now, when I read the way the SBA guidance came out, it says either you got some money, but not the full 10,000, or funds were exhausted. I don't see that third group in there, those who were turned down for EIDL the first time. So I would recommend you apply for reconsideration. And that's in the article. There's a special email address and a physical address. You can apply to have your loan application reconsidered. But as far as the grant goes, I don't know how they're going to handle it. I'm just not getting a great feeling that they're going to be offering it to those. A great question here. Is it based on number of employees? No. So there's nothing in the new legislation that mentions number of employees. And the way I read what the SBA has said, it's the full 10,000. So you're either going to get the full 10,000 minus whatever you got before, or you're not going to get anything at all. So you're not either going to qualify for that full 10,000 or you will not qualify. It does not mention anything about 1,000 per employee. Now, to be fair, the CARES Act also didn't say 1,000 per employee, but I strongly suspect that if that was going to be the case in this round, the SBA would say something in this round of guidance. I just can't, knowing what they know now and what they've been through this past year, I can't imagine they wouldn't have mentioned it. So, Michelle, we mentioned the qualifications for the EIDL grant. You had to have applied in 2020 and either gotten some money or you didn't get anything because the funds were exhausted. You have to be located in a low-income community and you have to have suffered a 30% economic loss, which is detailed in that article and on the SBA website. It's more based on a comparison period. You're going to take one period of time and compare it to a previous period of time, and then that will determine whether you qualify. Rhonda, great question. Someone who didn't qualify at all, and that's the question I was trying to address. Where the way I read the legislation, there should be an opportunity for you to apply, even if you didn't get anything the first time. But the way the SBA worded what they came out with today, I'm concerned that they may not be considering those who didn't get anything. So I can't answer for sure. It's possible you will get an email from SBA, but it's not, I don't know. I'm a little concerned by what I saw that you may not fall in that group just based on the way they described it. So let's see if we have any other questions here. Okay. So really, again, check your email, look for that, look for the updates. And I want to give you one more tip. Today is January 20th, 2021. We have a new president and a new administration. He's already nominated an SBA administrator who comes from that background, super excited to see that. You need to reach out to your elected officials in Washington. If these programs are not meeting your business needs, there's already talk of more aid for small businesses. So you need to reach out and let them know the challenges your business is facing and why these programs are not addressing your needs. So hopefully your voices are heard in this next round of stimulus that I do anticipate we will see sometime, Congress and God willing, sometime in the next month or two. Hopefully we'll see more stimulus. So you need to really reach out and talk to them about that. All right. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you'll follow our updates on the blog and the Facebook group and on social media. And we'll do our best to continue to answer as many questions as we can and hopefully help you get the stimulus that you need. Thanks for joining me today.